Yeah.
Perfect timing.
Peace to the family. We are now back. We got ourselves BDELL, Talia, Ariel, and Young God. All right. So in this video, we're gonna be talking about polygamy. I'm gonna let everybody introduce themselves. BDELL. How you feeling, BDELL?
I'm doing great, man. Speedell, tapping in with the family, and I appreciate you bringing me on the platform with everybody. Salute to
Yes,
everybody.
sir. Yes. All right. We got Talia.
Peace and love, everybody. I'm Talia. I'm very grateful to be here and be a part of the conversation. So yeah, thanks for having me.
Mm-hmm. Ariel.
Much love, you guys. I'm definitely interested in sharing my opinions on this topic. I can't wait to get into this interview. We got a lot of amazing people in the stream room right now, so I'm excited.
All right. We got Young God.
Peace, y'all. It's Young God, man. You know what I'm saying? I'm happy to be with the family again on another live stream, man. Gratitude for having me on. We're going to talk about polygamy. We've been in a relationship. I've been in a relationship for over 14 years, so I got a lot to talk about, a lot of experience, man. Can't wait to get to it.
All right. So appreciate everyone for joining in, Cosmic Family. So I want you guys to understand that polygamy is one of the biggest things in the spiritual community. You hear a lot of men talk about it. You hear a lot of women talk about it. It is a very controversial headline in the spiritual conscious community. A lot of people feel like polygamy is one thing that is, you have to have money. Some people feel like polygamy is something that you have to have a spiritual connection. Some people say that even in the Bible times, when people was polygamous, the men, it was the richest and wealthiest men. So polygamy has always been a thing for some people say the rich. Now, some women argue that polygamy isn't good, it's not healthy, it's toxic and this and that. Some people say polygamy is needed to build. Polygamy, when a man's polygamous, it gives him an energy that he's a builder. It tells me when I look at a polygamous man, it tells me that he wants to build something and he's not here to settle for less. He wants to build as much as he can. So polygamy does represent the builder archetype of a man. You know what I'm saying? So we're gonna let BDELL go on first, and I'm gonna ask you, BDELL, to start to show off what is the most powerful benefits of polygamy, and would you recommend it to our brothers?
When you look at the socioeconomical aspects of it, it's good for like resources. It's good for nation building. So when you get to the inception of time, it was basically a sun cycle. So all matriarchal civilizations started with, as far as like nation building and polygamy or whatever. It's not one of those things where the man is above the woman and the woman is above the man. They both work in synergy like in a machine in a factory. It was one of those things where you got to read the book, The Destruction of a Black Civilization by Chancellor Williams. He talked about how we had matriarchal civilizations where we had men, they had like about 4, 5, 6, 7 wives. It wasn't because it was based on hedonistic practices. It was based on nation building. And that's how you build sustainable civilizations. When you're talking about the golden age during the times of ancient Kemet, during the times of Atlantis, during the times of Tartaria, these were all fifth dimensional civilizations that was cultivated by polygamy. But now when you transition to modern day times, everything is based on a supplication process, meaning that they supplicate your emotions to the point it becomes a weakness. So now the man has a veneration for sex. So it's not operating from a structural standpoint, because the way Western civilization is basically set up now is based on hedonistic practices. So now people want to jump in polygamy because they want to have threesomes and foursomes. So it's one of those things where you got to understand that you got to go through the healing process before you even tap into the energy of polygamy, because this is how you end up like Nature Boy and many different other cult leaders who was partaking on that energy. So you got to go through the healing process, and then that's when you're able to galvanize your resources, and then that's when you're able to have about 4 or 5 different wives.
Okay, I like that. Okay, so do you feel like Nature Boy and people like Brother Polite, what did they do wrong when they went polygamous?
They wasn't tapping into the spiritual aspects of it. It was more based on the materialistic aspects of it, because like I said, the healing process is one of those things where a lot of people want to tap into esoteric knowledge. They want to do all these ancient spiritual systems and everything. They don't go through the healing process first. So it becomes a form of toxicity. It becomes one of those things where you vilify, sexual proclivities and things of that nature. So it goes very left, you know what I'm saying, when you get into like, Canaanite culture, and this is how you get subjected to the, things talking about like Diddy and freak off parties and stuff like that. That's when it goes real deep into that, because like I said, when people get a lot of resources, they don't do the healing, the resources or whatever materialistic possessions they have is going to subjugate them, and it's going to make their civilization crumble. Even when you go back into ancient Rome, you see what happened with that. Ancient Babylon, the Assyrian Empire, all these systems had hedonistic practices. So you have now, you got males who want polygamy because they don't understand the diametrical difference between a man and a male. Because a male is an individual who hasn't mentally fortified himself enough to be a man to where he's able to be disciplined enough to take care of, 4 or 5 different women, because he's mentally and spiritually and physically out of balance. So it's one of those things right now, we got to be really realistic about our approach in this time period, because a lot of men right now, they're not fit to take up on that energy of polygamy.
As for you, Sister Talia, what's your thoughts on polygamy?
Well, I want to start off by saying that I'm not anti-polygamy. I'm anti-misuse. I'm anti, using it for misogynistic, ego-based reasons. Polygamy can be very sacred when it's rooted in maturity, um, mutual energy exchange. Each party is being poured into healing together. I just feel like, basically, as BDELL said, like there's a lot of misuse. There's a lot of ego driven, at least from what I've seen, um, in our culture and society, of just lust driven desires. And when that is like probably one of the last things polygamy should be based around. When you talk about building natures and extending bloodlines, it has to, you need a dynamic group of people, a very honest people that have integrated their shadow, done the shadow work, integrated their ego, that are aware of their inner child wounds and triggers to enter a polygamist relationship and still feel sovereign, to still feel seen and valued by their husband, and their husband's understanding that each woman is an individual and that needs to be poured into, that has their own, way to love, their nurturing needs. And sometimes, women can enter, from my clients that I've dealt with as a high priestess, there are women that go into, polygamous relationships that go into it with one understanding, but when they get inside, that there's a lot of chaos, there's a lot of fighting. And so it's just important. I'm never going to tell anybody how to live, what to do. Um, but it's just knowing when you go in that wounds are going to be triggered, because if you're not a self-assured sovereign woman in her own journey and who she is, you're going to constantly seek validation and compare yourself to these other parties that could be a part of that contract. So like I said, I'm definitely very open-minded, very, very willing to explore certain things. But I think I know a woman needs a man with a purpose and knows his divine purpose to even be comfortable, to even consider going into a situation like that. Not only are you leading me and possibly our children, you're leading other women and others. It's a very big purpose. So it just takes a well-grounded, rooted man, a patient man, a wealthy man, and spiritually wealthy as well, to be able to lead a group. So yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing I hear with a lot of goddesses. They say that, he has to have financial stability. That's why in the Bible, the men who did practice, poly, they had multiple businesses. They were, financially abundant. So that abundance transpired into different aspects of their life. When you have a lot of financial abundance, it usually transpires into your romantic life as well. You want to be romantically abundant, you know what I'm saying? So sometimes that's usually what happens. even in the Bible times, biblically, that was an effect of having a lot of money. I do feel like with polygamy, the men who do practice the polygamy now, it's tricky, and I feel like polygamy does have a weird reputation because a lot of men, I say some brothers who practice it, they do it for ego-based purposes. You have some men who do it off of a narcissistic way of doing it, where they look for women who are more who have a lower self-worth. So it's about having a healthy way of doing this, and if we're going to practice this, how can we as brothers and sisters do it in a way to where we're coming together and we're actually making it a fair thing. So I'm gonna let Ariel go next, and let me show you. Let's hear your thoughts on polygamy.
So my thoughts on polygamy is more, well, I'll say this. I'll kind of bring it more to like a modern day understanding of what I feel about it and what I'm seeing in a lot of different situations and relationships that are polygamistic. I feel as if absolutely everything that both of you guys said is very similar to my beliefs. It's not for anything that's going to be egotistical or sexual or anything of that nature. It's going to be more so for the energy of building a legacy. Now, I would say in this day and age, I don't really typically think that the man necessarily has to be wealthy. And I don't look at it as that way. I look at it as in a polygamistic relationship with the man being I guess will be like the head of that relationship and having multiple wives. It would be on more of like an aspect of trying to build a bigger tribe, trying to build a bigger understanding of what you're trying to cast out into this realm. So it helps to build a bigger team by connecting with different frequencies romantically, because at the end of the day, when even whether people think about this or not, we can all silently be in competition with each other. But when you find the person that you want to resonate with and you connect with, there is no competition. You guys are together, building together a true relationship in that manner. So when you bring in multiple situations, multiple lives, multiple incomes, this helps to build a bigger legacy. This helps to build a bigger stream of what you guys are trying to create. And these days we're not living a life where the man has all the resources. We're living a life where everybody is getting up, getting out, and getting their own. So at this time, it's really a better way to safely reproduce and have children and have a family, and it'll be a safe structure. But at the same time, being able to bring, like I was saying, multiple incomes, multiple situations to build a bigger kingdom. So I kind of see it in that way. And then also too, as well, I see it more on like a family structure. So like if you are living a life where you're running your own business, you're cooking everything from scratch because you don't want to eat poison, you're, say if you live off grid and y'all have to deal with the animals on your farm or the foods on your farm or anything like that, it can become a lot of responsibility to try to do this with just you and your woman or your man, so when you bring multiple people in and you have these opportunities, you guys are able to help each other and build faster, get more creative, create more, branch out more. Maybe you guys have multiple land, and so one person is over here tending to that one while the other person is over here dealing with the children. And so it really helps to create like a true safe community and tribe without people having their own weird intentions to get ahead. You know what I mean? Like, so in a way, it's like I'm noticing that that's kind of the way that it would lean towards these days, living in this modern structure that we live in.
Yeah, I definitely like that. Polygamy has a very expansive mindset, and that's why even astrologically, a lot of Sagittarius placements or dominant people practice it because Sagittarius is a very expansive zodiac sign. So when someone goes polygamous, it tells me that they're expansive. When someone isn't polygamous, it's nothing wrong with it. You know, it just shows me that they're comfortable with a romantic relationship that is more, you know, simplistic. You know, so everybody has their preference. And leading to a Sagittarius, we got young God. The last but not least, you know, he's the Sagittarius here, the most polygamous man here. So, what's your share your doctrines on polygamous people and why you practice polygamy?
Oh yeah, most def. Well, peace again. You know, like it's a lot of thoughts and mindsets that go against being polygamous. The way I see it, I'm not trying to convince anybody, but I see it as there are way more, like statistically, there's way more women and goddesses on this realm than there is guys. Like we all know that fact, right? And we can say it's been done through certain levels and certain procedures or whatnot, but the way I see it is once we impregnate a goddess and they have 9 months that they're carrying our seed, right? And they have to to go and repopulate the planet, because that's what we do. We also have space and time that we can go and we can us as men, we can also keep repopulating and reprocreating. Like we still have sperm cells that are active. So to me, it's like what are we wasting for, right? We can go out and we can continue to implant nature with our DNA. Also, it's bigger than just financial resources to me that makes it a thing with even being in a polygamous relationship. Also, it's about the resources that that you have. What resources are you bringing to the table? As far as like having you can have money, you can have land, you can have family traits, you can have different resources that once you bring it into a family structure, it strengthens the entire village, the entire community. A lot of people have been putting it on a financial aspect because today, in today's time, it has a lot to do with money, with sustaining, to keep a house going or to keep food on the table or whatever. But it's really deeper than that. Like I said, it's really a lot of resources that come in to us building a multiple relationship family. And that's my perspective on that.
Yeah, that's definitely true. I know you was the one who told me that, you know, man, we have millions of sperm cells. So it's like, you know, women, they have certain amount of eggs, but men, you know, they have to use those sperm cells to procreate on this planet. You know, so that's one of the most, I hear that from a lot of polygamous men. I heard from one guy that she had said that you know how the sperm chases the egg. So, you know, that's how it's supposed to be in reality. The man's supposed to pursue the woman. So the man, if the man is polygamous, he's supposed to be the one trying to get the woman, trying to pursue her, because naturally, on a sexual level, biologically, the sperm chases the egg. You know, the egg is what tracks. So, yeah,
Most def. And to add on to that, what I was saying, like I said, about resources and about it being statistically, it being more women on this realm and goddesses here than there are us. I believe it's because we are supposed to continue to bring star seeds to this realm through different vessels. And like my goddess was saying, when you continue to add additions onto your family and your structure grows, the king also strengthens, and his ability to lead also strengthens. The
hmm
entire structure and his entire mentality shifts and changes. I've seen it a couple times in my life because a lot of people that I grew up around are very polygamous, and like they've been together for years, and it's worked out. I've seen some relationships not work out, and I've seen the reasons why they didn't work out. A couple of them were about financial decisions and things like that, but the ones that stood strong and firm, their principles usually are set on deeper foundations than just money. I know about a relationship of a blind man. Excuse me, I don't know his name, but he had 7 beautiful wives and he lived in the Amazon, and he's been blind his entire life. How he accumulated 7 beautiful, strong goddesses, I'm not sure, but I believe that they were just divinely led. Obviously, it had nothing to do about lust and looks in that particular moment. It had everything to do with them believing that they were placed in a position to help this king to level up. And that's what
Mm,
he's been doing with their guidance and assistance. Um,
yes.
and like I said, it had nothing to do with lust because he couldn't even see. I mean, I'm not, of course, I don't swing that way, but I felt like, he's an attractive guy who moves around with a firm point of view in life. So I could see why a goddess would want to move with that structure. It's basically about
Hmm.
the stronger you are and the stronger you absorb power and the ability to lead, the more you just naturally attract more goddesses to want to attract to you and see, what you're talking about. And you just have to learn how to move in that image once you attract that, and that's just, it's basically the main key to this lifestyle with polygamy.
Right. Okay. So we appreciate you, young guy. So we got Indigo Bang in here. Uh, we're gonna have her speak, one of our collaborators as well. So how you feeling, Indigo Bang?
I'm good. I'm up here at work right now.
Okay. Okay. So when it comes to polygamy, is how do you feel about polygamy on the positives and the negatives? And what would you tell people who need to learn and understand polygamy?
Where do I start? Because there's so many places to start with that. Um, I believe it can be an effective thing, honestly. Um, but I also feel like the way it's been used is not really, haven't been really positive, on both sides when it comes to the male and the female. Um, I feel like when creating an empire, that's what makes sense to me. Create an empire when you have or see a king, a man, ready and able to sustain multiple women, and I think that's why um, it's not successful because of the ability to sustain that and understanding. Like as a man who's trying to, I guess, manifest that. Um, Understanding that I have to be in a certain position to sustain this. So that's why I feel like polygamy is what do I call it? A thing for um, high ranking gods, high ranking kings, higher ranking masculine energy that's instilling that just to know like the position. I don't feel like everybody can carry that position. And when it
Okay.
comes to cultivating the land, yes, bringing in more star seeds, bringing in more indigos. When you have a direct mission, when it's not, coming from sexuality and just sex, you know what I'm saying, but actually like sustaining an empire, a kingdom. Um, yeah, that's how I
Yeah.
feel about it so far.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's so many ways and things I can touch on when it comes to that.
Yeah. So, brother BDELL, on polygamy, do you feel like polygamy is for high-ranking guys? I know I agreed on it. Indigo Bang, a few others. How do you feel about that?
I agree because polygamy in itself is a form of spiritual revolution. And the reason I say that is because it eliminates the middleman. And when you eliminate the middleman, you eliminate capitalism that's based on patriarchal structures. So it's one of those things where the woman has to have the ability, the intuitive ability to pick certain men that's based on how resourceful he is and based on the intelligence aspect of it. Because
Mm-hmm.
that in itself is going to be the precursor on how you build sustainable kingdoms. So
Mm-hmm.
this is the main reason why, as far as like the patriarchal infrastructure that's based on, democratic principles and things of that nature. The reason that is vilified so much because it's based on separatism, right? And the reason I say it's based on separatism is because it is basically the precursor to classism, different forms of racism. Excuse me. Hello?
I can hear you.
Yeah, we can still hear you.
Okay. But what I was saying is, the patriarchal standpoint of democracy is one of those things that takes, the indigenous people out of our sovereign capacity to the point it causes separatism. So this is why they propagate, monogamy, and it's all connected to, the grand unified theory when you're going into the stock market and things of that nature. It's all connected. So, matriarchy in itself is how you build these kingdoms. But like I said, the woman has to be emotionally tapped into her intuitive abilities to pick certain men. And a lot of women, they don't have those capabilities nowadays because they've been spiritually cut off by the sleep spell of King Gahd, which is the sleep spell of materialism. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Did you switch accounts? It looked like you switched accounts.
Yeah, it looks like that.
You probably got some technical difficulties going on.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm sure you're gonna cut this part out though.
Yeah.
It was a little choppy, but I heard
Say
you.
something. Say something.
It's
Yeah.
choppy.
Yes. Your mic.
Oh man, we can't really hear you, Fa.